lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and with me today, I have a dope artist with me. I got Bob Quinn. New fan of your work. I discovered you from the Captain America stuff you did. You're doing Way of X, and now you're jumping on a book that was announced. And I messaged you right after a new Cable book, which I'm very, very stoked for. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show, dude.
Well, thank you very much. It is a wonder to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, let's everybody that I talked to for the first time, I always like to hear a little bit, kind of their origin story in terms of comic books and how they got into them as a kid, and in turn how that turned into a career in comics.
Yeah. So my path was a little different because I thought I was going to be a comic strip artist for the longest time. I actually was originally not a big comic book reader, but I read a lot of comic strips, right? Like I was a big like gag humor comic guy. Like, so I would read, like a lot of kids would be like, hey, cool, my parents read me Golden Books when I was a kid. Instead, my dad would like read me Mad Magazine before I went to sleep. So like I grew up on like Don Martin and Dave Berg and Mort Drucker and all those guys, right? So, in the early 2000s, I ran a horrible web comic that was not very good. Just thinking, I'll be the next PvP or whatever, right? Like, and it was never going to happen because it wasn't good enough to, and it was like subject matter didn't speak to anybody. It was a complete mess. But in the meantime, I was like, I read comics and stuff like that, right? Like I was getting into it more as I saw things that sort of appealed to me artwork wise, not like Hellboy, and I was a big reader of Chew for a long time. I read Invincible really religiously. Pretty much if it came out of Image for a long time or somebody that wasn't big too, I ended up reading it. And I don't know if that was just like I don't know if it had to do with sort of like the the long-term implications of I hadn't read every issue forever, so like I didn't know where the good jumping on point was that that everybody kind of talks about. But those were the books that I ended up reading. And because like when I was growing up, like I read all the Image books, right? Because like those were number ones, you could jump onto them real quick. So like I was real into like Cyberforce back in the day. And I was like, oh my god, this Mark Silvestri guy really knows how to draw. I was like, somebody said, well, he did X-Men too, and I'm like, I don't care. So yeah, so that was kind of where my jumping on point was. But I was like, I liked drawing, but I never, because I grew up going like, oh, the people that do comic books draw like Mark Silvestri, and I don't draw like that. So I'm like, I'm never going to get a job doing this. But then, like times changed and sensibilities changed. And like, I started seeing people like, Scotty Young come up in the industry. And I was like, oh, you can draw comics like that. And they seem to be okay with them. And then, I'd see stuff like Andrew Robinson stuff. And I go like, oh, they're okay with stuff that's a little bouncier, a little cartoonier. And I was like, well, maybe I could do it, And then, yeah, I mean, the long and short of it is I made a couple of friends, including the guys at the Thrilling Adventure Hour, Ben Acker and Ben Blacker. I did like a drawing for one of their shows. And at the time, Ben Acker was working with Dynamite on a King Syndicate book, which was King's Quest, after the King's Watch book that they did. So at that point, they were like, hey, would you want to come on and draw it? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And then they were like, here's the date. And I was like, I can't start then. Because I was, at that point, because what had happened was I'd been working in the video game industry for like 12 years, and I had an opportunity to leave and go do a graphic novel. So I just kind of did it because, the page rate wasn't amazing. And I was like, I'm going to kick myself if I don't actually draw this, because I didn't think we were going to get anybody at the dollar amount that we had that I thought was going to be any good. So I said, screw it, I'm going to draw this. So I drew it, and then I had no prospects after that until this thing came up with Ben Acker. So like, I was like, let's do it. Dates didn't work out. And then I ended up just doing like some flashback pages until the initial artist was like double booked and had to leave. So then I completed the series, and I did one of the books in like 2 weeks, which ingratiated me to the editor. And then he started throwing me regular work. And then that turned into Green Hornet Meets the Spirit. That turned into James Bond. That turned into, what was it? Lone Ranger, then Red Sonja with Mark Russell and all that stuff. Right. And then along the way was like, I totally lucked into Marvel, because like I never did like the go to cons and get a portfolio review thing. Like I literally drew like don't let anybody tell you not to do fan art, kids, because like I did a piece of fan art that somebody noticed. They tagged their editors, and then the next day they were like, "Hey, do our editors know you?" And I said no, and they said send us an email, and I sent an email, and then I'm drawing, Miss Marvel. So I don't know. It's like I've had the craziest luck the whole time that I've been in this stupid industry, and it makes no sense.
I mean, I think it's how a lot of people. I mean, like even Ed Piskor with his X-Men Grand Design, he did that one like image, right? And that project. So I think it's kind of cool that happens. And I love
it takes the right person seeing you and thinking that you're any good, and then all of a sudden they'll put in a good word for you, or a good word with you, or for you, whatever. They'll say some nice things about you, and then hopefully an editor goes, yeah, let's give this guy a shot. And then as long as you're on time and not a jerk, they go, yeah, this is good, this is okay. You can keep working.
Yeah, I mean, I loved your Captain America stuff because I was reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' run, which and I still like. Ed Brubaker's run is still probably to me my favorite Cap run, but it was a good like. I hadn't liked it this much since Brubaker's run, so like I said, that's how I discovered your stuff, and then I found out, you're doing Way of X, which I think is an interesting book. How did you land in the X line? Because like that, I mean that line's constantly shifting. There's so many different things going on, different crossovers, different titles coming and going. So I'd love to hear a little bit about Way of X.
It's so I don't have a ton of visibility into it, which is the funny thing. Like the way that, at least for me, like getting jobs at Marvel works is I'll do a series and then I'll be like writing to their talent coordinator guy going, hey guys, well, I guess I'm not working anymore. So if you got something, let me know. And so that's what happened. I was working on Champions at the time, and I really, really loved that book, and I enjoyed the crap out of it. And I'd sent an email to the editorial team going like, hey, listen, if this thing continues in any way, please let me know, because I'd love to keep drawing it. And then I got like the kindest, most apologetic email of, we've already got a team lined up for the next 5 issues. We're so sorry. And I was like, oh, that's all good. You don't owe me anything. I was just asking. So I just kind of wrote a quick email off, and I was like, well, I guess this is it. Yeah, I guess back to the salt mines. So they sent, I got an email like a week or 2 after that, and I was sort of in like this gray area where I was doing some commissions for some people, and I was talking about a creator-owned thing with another company, and I just get this sort of cryptic email of like, hey Bob, we've got something coming up, and it might be pretty cool. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what that means. So then we haven't missed your window, have we? No, it's okay. We can do it. Please stand by. I was like, okay. So then like I get this email from one of the editors over at the X-Men line, and they're like, hey, we're doing this kind of weird book. It's gonna have Nightcrawler in it, and it's gonna be written by Cy Spurrier. And I was like, okay, well, those are 2 things I like. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah. Are you kidding? Like, because it's one of those things where and I don't know if this happens to other artists, but it's like when that came up, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to draw X-Men. You know what I mean? It's like I've done some fun books, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm X-Men guy, right? Like, am I ready for that? Like, because I mean, like, I'm painfully aware of where I sit in the industry. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, you're buying X-Men, or you're buying Captain America because of Ta-Nehisi Coates, right? Like, you're buying that Lone Ranger book because Mark Russell's name is on it. You're not necessarily going, now this Bob artwork is a thing I need to stick into my eyeballs, right? Like, so like, I get it, right? But so I was like, all right, I mean, like, I'll try an X book. I'll try not to stink it up too bad. And then, I got the script, and it was like, it's pretty out there. Like, and it's pretty nuts. And they're doing, Cy's doing his Cy thing, right? Like, he's talking about some really interesting philosophical stuff, but he's put like some really cool cliffhangers in there. And like, I'm working on issue 5 right now, and it's like completely bananas. So I was like, yeah, this is something I want to try. And I guess I'm attempting in the way I can to just sort of rise to the occasion and try to make myself better with every page, so that by the end of it, I actually was supposed to be on the book.
Well, I think that being on being in the X line right now, right? Like, the X line has not been this good in years. Like, I was not reading X-Men for a long time.
Sure.
Just like it was just all over the place. It was never consistent. Like it just was not for me. But ever since Hickman with House and Powers, like for the most part, I won't say I've loved every book or everything, but for the most part, it's been more hit than miss for me. And I love the concept of Way of X. I mean, the fact, the whole religious aspect, and who else but Nightcrawler would be the focal point for that. So like,
obviously.
so that off top was like, I'm here for it. So I mean, that has to be bringing more people to your work too, because of the fact that the X line is so hot right now. And you're already like segueing into another book. Like you're still doing Way of X and you've already got another book announced.
Yeah, no, I'm already done with it too. So that's the crazy part. So the Cable book is, I think, I can't remember exactly how it fits into the line exactly, but it's just a one shot that they're doing, and it's completely bonkers. Like it's the best way I can say, the best thing I can say about it is it's like all the best parts of 90s comics in one book. It's just like everything is off the wall action. It's completely goofy. It is so much fun. It felt like I was like, this is like I don't know what I did to deserve this one. This one's it's totally great.
Was Cable a character like, was that era for you? Like, I mean, you talked about early Image. I still love that old Image stuff, and spent a lot of this pandemic going back and getting stuff that I couldn't get because I was too young back then to get it. Cable has been one of my favorites. I mean, that era of X-Men 2 was like, that was when I got into X-Men, so Liefeld's X-Force, Deadpool, New Mutants, Jim Lee's X-Men, all of that stuff is just like permeated in my comic fandom. So how huge was that for you to be able to do their OG Cable, not
it was great, Cable. Right? Because like I said, like that was the stuff that first got me excited about like comic books, right? Like way too much cross hatching, books that got delayed, that was my era. I was like, that's just how we make these things, right? So like every opportunity I had to put more tiny tick lines into the thing, I did it, right? Like it was me sort of, I felt like saying, hey, I loved all this crap, right?
Yeah.
Again, in the best way that I could. I don't know how well I delivered on it, obviously, because like it's not how I draw, but like I wanted to do my best version of it, if that makes any sense. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was it was another one of those situations like, well, I don't understand why they picked me, but when they did, I was like, yes, I mean, this is obviously absolutely something I wanted to do. And so the funny thing was like process wise is like I was getting fed the script like bits at a time, and it seemed like Al was kind of reacting to how I was drawing it. So like I would push it more 90s, and then he would start pushing the writing more 90s, and it was just great. It was totally fun, and it was like I felt it was a really organic process, and he was great to work with. So yeah, I loved it. It was great.
That's all. I mean, Al Ewing's one of the most underrated writers in the industry, in my opinion. Like, I know he's a great writer, but I feel like not enough people are talking about the amazing work that he is producing. I mean, Sword is dope. Don't even get me started on how great Immortal Hulk was. I have never been a Hulk fan. He has made me an avid Hulk fan to the point where like I will continue picking it up even after he leaves the book, just because of what he did with that character. So hearing that, I love that you're telling me he's pushing it more 90s Cable book, because I'm very stoked to get Old Man Cable back, and I'm very excited about the title. And I'm just happy that you're drawing it too, man, because I'm really digging what you're doing also. So
well, thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's super fun. You're not going to be disappointed if you pick the book up. Like it's 30 pages of nonstop action and silliness. Like it's insane. It's completely insane. And like it's one of I've been very lucky because I keep getting paired to Marvel editorial credit. They seem to understand where I like to sit tonally. So like with Way of X, like there's sort of like this, overarching kind of gloom and spookiness, but there's also like sort of like funny, like there's humor elements, like a lot of gross out stuff, right? And I was like, this is completely what I want to be drawing. And then, you know, like the cable book is like this totally over the top. And again, there's like a lot of humor in it. And I was like, yes, this is perfect, right? Like this is the crap I want to be doing. So like they seem to understand my sensibilities and are pairing me with people that fit well with me. And I think we're actually making some really great books as a result. So yeah, I'm really excited for people to get their hands on it.
Can't even describe how excited I am. So, what in terms of like, what's next for you? What are you working on something else? I mean, Cable's done. I didn't know it was a one shot. I thought it was a series.
Yeah. Well, I think it's either finishing off something or teeing up something. So forgive me again. I don't remember exactly where it fits into the whole line, because you may be shocked to learn that when you draw these things, you don't have a ton of time to read them.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's either setting up something or finishing something. Finishing up Wave X pretty soon, I think. I don't know exactly how far. I don't know what's been announced for it. I think I'm going to be done with it pretty soon, but I'm not sure. So like it'll either be a thing where like it continues going, or we're going to end it, or something's going to happen, but I'm not going to be drawing it again anymore in a few months, because like, you know, again, I don't have a ton of visibility into what the publishing side of things is. That all I know is that my commitment's going to be ending on it soonish. And then after that, no idea. I do have a thing coming up, but like it's going to take forever. So like I don't know how much I can talk about this, but I'll speak in generalities. I signed a deal with a publishing company to do a graphic novel, but they understand that the rate that they wanted to pay me was lower than my normal rate. So they allowed me space to continue working with Marvel in the meantime, so that I could actually make an appropriate amount of money for the time I'm spending on a thing. So like, I only have to deliver like 8 pages a month. So like, this thing is like 2 years in the future, but so like, I'm working on a graphic novel that'll come out in like 2 years. And then I don't know after that, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you kind of hope to want to do? Is there any other characters that you'd like to work on? Is there any creator-owned stuff that you kind of have ideas for? Maybe that you would write yourself even? Yeah.
So the thing that the book that I signed on with the publisher is a graphic novel that the best way to say it is I concepted it more or less myself, and then a friend of mine was like, I want to write this, and I trust him implicitly because he's a great writer. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And I said, here's kind of what it's about. Here's how it goes. But I didn't feel like writing it. So he was like, I'll write it. And I said, great. And then we worked back and forth on the script, and now we have it in a good spot. And I should be hopefully getting the final script in like a couple of weeks. And then I'm off to the races on it. So yeah, I mean, I have a couple of open doors at a few companies that are pretty cool, and they've asked me like, hey, if there's something you want to make, let us know. I said, okay. So yeah, I'd love to do a couple of creator-owned things, but I don't know. The funny thing is like I really, really like working with Cy. Like I think of all the partnerships that I've had in comics, our sensibilities fit together the best. I feel like I get his stuff pretty good. I feel like we fit together nicely. So like, if he's going to continue doing X books, I'll keep doing X books with Cy until they tell me I can't do them anymore. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is I'm pretty open and pretty agreeable in most places in cases. So, if you want to work with Bob, let me know. Send an email. Here's my email address.
In terms of like process, what do you prefer? Like, because I know there's also different ways that writers can approach a script. Some will just give plot. The artist does what they do. They just have to hit certain beats, or full script. What, in terms of that and your creativity, what is this thing that you prefer the most of?
It super depends. Like for me, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we're telling the story the best way possible. So like if the writer has a super specific way that they think they want something to be, I'm fine with them telling me exactly what they want. I did a little work on Fantastic Four last year, And Dan Slott writes very loose. Like, he very much like the pages very much read as like, okay, in this panel it's like this. They'll probably be talking about something like this, and he just kind of lets you go. And for my money, I think that's still the best work I've ever done, because it allowed me to just think about the page more. It allowed me to think about the page just visually, as opposed to because I come from like a comic strip background, I do have a tendency to think about every page as like a puzzle, right? So it's like there are this many panels. There is this much dialogue in each panel, but this is probably the most important panel on the page. So then it becomes arranging all of those little tiny elements. And like, you'll probably notice in a lot of my panels, I leave like, big room at the top for the dialogue, because what I expect is that like there's one character here, another character here, and then they're together and talk, right? Because like that's what I started doing. So to that end, it's like when I get full script, I think I might be a little more analytical and a little bit less free with it, because like I have a couple of I don't know what you'd call them. I guess they're creator-owned things, but like they're real. Like I have like a single issue thing that I want to do. It's like a 30-page thing that maybe one of these days I'll finally free up enough to finally finish. But like when I write for myself, I have a tendency to approach pages very, very differently. And the dialogue is almost secondary. And I'll take a lot more chances with like how the layout is, and how I'm allowing things to overlap stuff. And like I think it actually ends up making cooler pieces of art that tell stories. But I mean, different strokes for different folks. And if somebody has a more specific, like, hey Bob, I would like it if you laid it out this way, I'm like, okay, cool, I can do that. Again, it's just that back and forth, and you're building trust in the partnership with your collaborator and stuff like that. So it's like maybe this isn't the way I would have done it, but like I see what he's going for, so I can execute that, versus give me complete freedom and I shall create the universe kind of thing. So it's all good. I try to be a good collaborator, and not a jerk about it. So I'm like, yes, I can do that, no problem.
All right, cool, man. And you talked a little bit about the stuff that you were digging in the 90s. What's some of the stuff right now that you're really digging, creator wise, or comic book wise, titles and stuff that you're really into?
I've been backing 1,000 Kickstarters over the last year, because like I felt super guilty, right? Because everything shut down, and here I was with more work than I knew what to do with. Like last year, I don't even know how many books I put out, but like I was working on, like, I had like Champions, I had Red Sonja, I think it was last year. Yeah, last year was also Captain America, and then all this X-Men stuff. So like I had so much stuff. So like all I was doing was backing people's Kickstarters. So like I picked up like Wailing Blade, and I backed like Beef Bros, like everything that was out there that was like some sort of creator-owned thing that with somebody who just wanted to make their book. I was just like, yes, take my money. I want you to live your dreams. So that's actually what I've been reading a lot of recently.
Okay.
Is like just finally getting all the Kickstarter stuff that I backed in, and finally checking all that stuff out. So like I got all that stuff. I got Helm Greycastle. Yeah, like just like all like tiny, hey, we're making a book stuff. So that's what I've been reading primarily. I don't know if that's as much fun for the listening audience, but I was like, yes, back Kickstarters, support your local creator.
I mean, I think Kickstarters are a really interesting aspect of that has come into the industry and come into comics, because I've discovered a lot of stuff through there. I mean, my brother has done one. I've helped people promote theirs countless times, because I think it's a really cool avenue for people to get their work out there that may not necessarily have any other way to get their stuff published. Is that something that you have thought about possibly doing for some of your projects?
I have, just because I've pitched a few things around, and I won't get a bite on it, and I'm like, this is a good story and you just don't get it, so I might just have to do it myself.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer. It could be a situation where like I'll get it a little further down the road and actually show it to him again and be like, understand that this is what I'm talking about when I say this stupid idea. It's not what you think it is. Do you want it now?
Yeah.
And if it ends up being a no, then maybe I just finish it off and, do it myself, which is, I have a part of the reason that I got into comics is because I realized I can't have a boss. Like it makes me crazy. So I work, like I said, I worked in video games for years and years and years. And what would end up happening invariably was like, I'd go into a meeting and somebody who didn't know what my job was is yell at me and go, "This sucks. And you're not doing a good job." And I'm like, "You don't understand what I'm up against. You don't give us enough money and all these developers suck." And they're like, "No, you suck." And I'm like, "Oh gosh." So like, I couldn't handle that. Now, like I kept going from company to company looking for the version of the job that wasn't some asshole yelling at me, telling me that I'm no good at my job. And I'm like, I actually am good at my job. The tools you're giving me are crap. And I'm doing the best I can with them. Until eventually it became like, I went from private company to public company to big company to very small company. And I was just like, no, everybody's insane. And I can't stand this. So when the opportunity came along to just draw comics where all I would have to do is talk to an editor, and largely what my job is to sit down and then I turn in a page, and then ideally they go, "Yeah, it looks great," and every now and then I'll get like little notes of like, "Hey, can we tweak this thing?" or "This panel's not quite working," where I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that. That's easy." Like, because like ultimately they understand what a comic book is,
Right.
and they can tell if I'm, if I missed something, right?
Mhm.
Or if the story isn't being told quite right, like, or if I, if I emphasize the wrong thing, or maybe somebody isn't quite looking right, or hey, could you look at that face again? That guy's looking a little wanky, right? So like, that's easy to deal with, right? Like I go, oh yeah, I can look back and go, yep, I easy to fix. But like somebody who doesn't know what I do, telling me what I should be doing and yelling at me and stuff like that, and like not just leaving me to work, because like that's what I like, right? Like just leave me to do my job. I'll do my job. Everything will be fine. And that's very much what comics is, right? Like I get a script in and I go, okay, great. I will now do my job, and then I can just do it. At the end of the day, I have a thing that I created, and I can walk away happy, right? Like I can see the fruits of my labor before me.
Right.
And having that direct connection to it was very nice for me, because like video games is very nebulous, right? Like I sit in an office, I try to crush these bugs. How many of the bugs did we actually end up having to let through because time ran out? It's such a huge process. How much did I really contribute to the overall product at the end of the day? But like when a book comes out with my name on it, that's all my art. That's 20 pages of my art. That's my book, right? Like that's the thing I made. So I don't know. Maybe it's part not wanting a boss, part megalomaniacal insanity. I don't know. But like, I found a career that works for my particular temperament, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a reason I started YouTube to talk about comics, is because I think comic books as a whole, just the industry it's my favorite industry. It's my favorite medium for my entertainment. I mean, I love film, I love TV.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of my time is spent reading comic books. Probably also because I work at a comic book store, so I call it research, even though it's really for my enjoyment.
Yeah, I mean, but I also think that like they're really one of the best storytelling mediums there is, right? Like you can really do some crazy stuff with comics, like you'll see some like really weird, like figurative, crazy LSD comics that are just like collages and stuff like that with words, and like you get the story from it. Other ones are comic strips. Other ones are just like bing bang baff pow, punch 'em guys, and like they all work and they're all fun. And I don't know. I think they're great. I think they're great. I agree with you. They're the best. Everybody should read them. Yeah.
So you're wrapping up Way of X. Cable's done, and so right now, are you saying that like pretty much nothing's on your drawing board except the graphic novel that you're working on?
At the moment, yeah. At the moment,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, that all could change very quickly. Like, I have a tendency to be pretty speedy and deliver pages that do not suck that bad. So usually what happens is I get a lot of emergency calls from people being like, "Hey, we need something tomorrow," and I go, "Okay, I can do it." So, we'll see. As soon as I'm done with this, they may have something lined up for me already, or I may be, I may be out of a job for a minute. So we'll see. But I keep a lot of plates spinning with a lot of people. So it's entirely possible that something will happen or nothing will happen, and I'll just have to figure it out, right? I have to just start taking a ton of commissions. So we'll see what happens.
Right, man. Well, like I said, I'm excited. I'm loving Way of X, excited for cable. And before I let you out of here, if you could, just share with everybody listening and watching where we can find you online. And I'm going to drop all links down below in the comments as well.
Oh, great. So I'm on Twitter at RobotJQ, all one word. I have a Facebook, but I don't really use it. I think it's Bob Q's art or Bob Q draws. I'm not sure. I have you'll notice that I all of these things have wildly different names because I'm terrible at branding and I don't know how to do it. So my Instagram, which I don't really use anymore because that's turned into a trash platform since Facebook bought it, is King of Smaster, all one word. I stream on Twitch every now and then, so that Twitch is all twitch.tv/robotjq. So if I'm on there, you can watch me draw stuff, and sometimes I will share pages and stuff like that. So nothing with spoilers, so I don't get in trouble. But watch me draw, hang out. We can chat about whatever I'm working on, as long as it's not a question that's going to get me in trouble. So
all right, cool, man. Well, thank you for taking time to chat with me. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see what you got cooking next, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.